Why does Okarun get every girl in Dandadan? And how did this social outcast quickly get his own harem without even trying? Some of you are gonna say it's the power of plot armor, but it's not that simple. Plenty of anime characters have harems, but none of them are this believable, and it's honestly kind of funny. That's why in this video, I'm gonna analyze the newest addition to Okarun's ever-growing harem and explain the 3 qualities Okarun has that make him attract every other character in a uniquely genuine way. Just be warned that there will be some spoilers. Now, the first of Okarun's traits can actually be seen in the episode everyone is talking about where Vamola surprises him with a kiss, and that is his selflessness. A lot of people will tell you nice guys finish last, so when you see nice guys winning in a story, it's not uncommon to hear someone say, yeah, well, that's not how it works in the real world. But there's a difference between being the so-called nice guy and being truly selfless. And Okarun is the perfect example of this, because he shows that the difference between these two is in the intentions. So after the big fight against the kaiju, Okarun, Gigi, and their new friend Kinta are talking about Okarun's balls, you know, as bros usually do, when Okarun notices that there's a person inside the kaiju. The boys think someone got eaten alive, but Kinta doesn't want to check it out for himself, and Gigi is too afraid of gore. Okarun is visibly just as nervous as the other boys, but he looks for the golden ball anyway because it's his responsibility. And of course, once he does this, Vamola wakes up and kisses him. Now, here's where we have to talk about why Okarun's reasoning for his decision is so important, because it's really easy to misinterpret this scene and consequently Okarun. Vamola later tells us that she kissed Okarun because he was the first person she saw, and she assumed he was the one to defeat her. So while she may have developed some romantic feelings afterward, she wasn't influenced by those feelings when she kissed Okarun. Her main reason was getting a husband that was strong enough to beat her, as weird as that is to say out loud. And she made that choice because Okarun opened up the suit, making him the first person she saw. So what does that mean? Basically, this means that Okarun got a kiss not because Vamola thought he was being nice, but rather because his selfless decision put him in this situation. It's not like with Ira when he said helping her was the right thing to do, and Ira developed a crush because she thought Okarun was nice. This current situation happened because of Okarun's principles and had nothing to do with Vamola thinking he was a nice guy. And there could not be a more explicit example of separating nice guys that everyone trashes on and genuinely good guys. A so-called nice guy is someone who does something nice mainly because they want everyone else to see them as the nice guy. This is what Kinta does after Okarun helps Vamola when he tries to act like a gentleman. He does this after Okarun had already acted because he wants the same affection. But as we can see, Okarun did a selfless act with the intent of following his obligations, not the intent of influencing anyone. He opened the kaiju suit mainly because he wanted to find the golden ball, and the golden ball is his responsibility. His responsibility came before what everyone else thought of him. So part of the reason Okarun can do nice things without being seen as the cringy, disingenuous nice guy is because he isn't doing nice things to impress anyone. He does these things solely because he is that kind of person and knows they're the right thing to do. And because of that, he impresses people without even trying to impress them. Now, that being said, plenty of people can be selfless and not attract entire harems. Kinta, as weird as he is, can still be a good guy, but he's not exactly a ladies' man. So what's the difference between Okarun and someone like Kinta besides the whole 10-gallon wiener thing? It's the fact that Okarun is clearly more interesting, and being interesting is important because a character can be nice, but there's a difference between a character being a nice friend and a character being nice and also being attractive to other characters. And this is something we can actually see with Gigi. When Gigi is introduced at Momo's school, all of the other girls are in love love with him. Obviously, part of it is because he's tall and good looking, but what makes Gigi immediately stand out is his weird sense of humor. He does silly voices and does all of these weird faces and poses, and it makes the girls laugh. It's this sense of humor that makes the girls genuinely interested in Gigi, and that's the crucial step it takes to go from a good character to an attractive character. Writing an interesting trait that makes other characters literally attracted to that one character. Humor is obviously an easy one because everyone loves a funny person. Another way to do this is with skills. A great example of this is Slam Dunk. The main character, Sakuragi, has a crush on this girl, Haruko. Now, Haruko is all about basketball, so Sakuragi joins the basketball team, and he even asks Haruko to teach him. He thinks Haruko likes him because now they both like basketball, but then he finds out that she actually likes Rukawa, and the reason is simple. Sakuragi is a genuinely nice guy, but he sucks at basketball. Haruko likes Rukawa because he's the best at basketball, so she's naturally attracted to him because of her strong interest in all things basketball. So talent can be a good way to make a character attractive because when you are really good at something, it naturally makes you stand out to everyone. But what about Okarun? He's not that funny, and it's not like he's a varsity athlete. So what makes him stand out from everyone else? As we see a number of times, what makes Okarun interesting is his vast knowledge of aliens, cryptids, and all things occult. We see how this influences Momo a bunch of times. It's how Okarun is able to talk to her at school, to the point where she'll be in class thinking about talking about aliens with Okarun. It's what draws her attention away from Gigi on the train. There's even a couple of times later in the story where Momo remembers something she learned from Okarun, showing that she is genuinely interested and engaged with everything Okarun has to say. It sounds so simple, but that's really all it takes. Okarun's hobby might be weird, but it's weird enough that people find it interesting to hear about. And especially in the case of Momo, it's so interesting that it gets her completely invested in Okarun. So much so that she even thinks about him when they're not together. But that's just Momo. Obviously, there's levels of charm. And especially when it comes to Okarun, a lot of people wonder how he's able to not just get Momo, but also Aira and Vamola, and probably a bunch of other characters down the line. In Vamola's case, it was more of a coincidence. But it's not like she's unaffected by Okarun. If she were completely disgusted by Okarun, she wouldn't be holding his hand and stuff. You also have Aira and Momo who often fight over Okarun, making their interest in him feel even stronger. This all comes together when we watch Kinta confront Okarun and ask him straight up what's going on. I mean, he literally says what every fan is thinking at this point. How is it that someone as normal looking and shy as Okarun is always together with Momo and Aira? It's a really good point, and even Okarun has to think about it for a second because he's like, oh yeah, I guess I am always with them. And to make matters worse, the class president Rin shows up and starts fighting in an attempt to save Okarun from Momo. So in Kinta's eyes, Okarun now has 3 girls fighting over him. And rightfully so, Kinta assumes that Okarun has some hidden quality that he doesn't know. And this is the third thing that a character needs to be seen as attractive. There's a few things you can call it, but the basic idea is social confirmation. Here, Kinta sees that Okarun is surrounded by girls. Okarun really isn't even trying to charm them, but just the fact that he's surrounded by girls and Kinta isn't makes Okarun seem more attractive by comparison. The idea is that if you see someone with a bunch of girls, you assume there's a reason those girls like him. It even applies to friendships. If someone has a bunch of friends, then you assume there's something about them that makes them a good friend. Basically, other people being around you signals to everyone else that you are desirable. That is the basic idea of social confirmation, and that's why Okarun seems to have this snowball effect when it comes to girls. It's because the more friends he makes, the more Kinta and everyone else starts to notice him. This is also why there's really no other harem like this one, because the key to writing a good harem isn't to write a harem. The key to writing a good harem is to write a genuinely interesting character who happens to have a bunch of friends. This is why harems are so much more cringy in other anime. Typically what happens is that you'll have a main character that gets a bunch of girls who like him because he's the strongest. For example, as much as I love Solo Leveling and as much as I think the harem in that show is funny, it's only funny because it's so comically unrealistic to the point where nobody actually takes it seriously. The other situation you'll see is something like Rent a Girlfriend, where the main character does the tiniest, bare minimum decent things, and the girls look at him like he's a knight in shining armor. That is why people hate when characters get a harem just for being nice, because that just doesn't happen. It'd be like if someone asked for your Instagram just because you held the door for them. It's like we talked about before. There's a big difference between being a nice guy and being seen as genuinely selfless. Being a decent person is, by definition, decent. It's expected. Being selfless is something that makes you stand out. So isn't being interesting. And when you are selfless and interesting, that's when people want to be your friend and go out with you. And when you are selfless and interesting and people want to hang out with you, suddenly everyone else wants to hang out with you. And this is why Okarun has this seemingly impossible ability to form a harem. But it's also why we don't just buy it, but we actually love it. Okarun is selfless because he does the right thing to do the right thing, not because of what other people think. And he might be a bit plain, but he isn't a super nerd like Kinta that prefers his women in 2D. He's just really into nerdy things, but it's that love for his hobby that makes him genuinely interesting to other people. And because he's selfless and interesting, we find it completely normal when he's able to make all of these friends and even form his own harem, because he didn't meet these people just because he's the main character. He did it because he really has main character energy, even though he doesn't know it.